Is a recognized AI expert and one of DC region's top women in tech. With an extensive experience in optimizing operational efficiency and mitigating risk with AI, she's held key roles with industry giants such as AOL and Apple. Anne is also the founder of the award-winning and AI enablement platform, SameGrain, and she holds a patent in data match analysis. Today, Anne will take us beyond the buzz and into the practical real-world applications that can benefit your organization. A few housekeeping items before we get started. Please keep your microphones on mute throughout the presentation to avoid any background noise. And if you have any questions during the presentation for Anne, please use our Zoom chat to submit them directly to me, and I'll be collecting those questions. And at the end of the presentation, we're going to have a Q&A where I will go ahead and I'll read those off to Anne, and she'll answer them to the best of her ability. Without further ado, please take it over, Anne Balduzzi.
Great. Thank you for having me here today. I really appreciate this opportunity to share some of my background and experiences in the space of AI. And also, I always start every presentation off, which, by the way, I've been giving presentations on the future of AI for about 20 years now. And the future is among us. We're living that future right now. And so, but it's a very quickly paced and quickly changing future. So I kind of always start out with this warning or disclaimer to say a lot of the information you're going to hear about today may just within a few weeks or months be very out of date. So that just gives you a sense of the pace in which things are evolving in this space. I also like to start off with just making sure everybody understands that artificial intelligence is an extremely rare, pivotal moment in human history. It's not only going to be transforming businesses, but it's frankly going to be transforming humanity as a whole, much in the way that the invention of electricity transformed humanity, or the Industrial Revolution, or even the introduction of the internet. In fact, I think it's going to be bigger than all three of those events combined. And it's going to be unlocking unprecedented potential for both innovation, productivity, progress. And also, it's important to recognize that the pace of growth within these AI, evolutionary moments is incredibly fast. In fact, it's exponentially fast. And to kind of help you understand what exponential growth looks like, I want you to try to imagine 30 linear steps. From wherever you're sitting right now, you can pretty easily picture, if you took 30 steps in any direction around you, you can pretty well estimate where that might take you. But now I want you to go a step further and actually try to imagine where 30 exponential steps would take you. It might take you to the other side of a building, to the other side of your town. You might imagine it taking you to the other side of the state or the other side of the country. But if you were really imagining that it might take you to the moon, that's actually what 30 exponential steps look like. And so I only use this example to really illustrate in a way to help everyone understand what exponential growth looks like. And AI is moving on an exponential growth curve. But this hasn't been an overnight success. This is actually something that has been growing over the past 70 years. Now, we are in a phase right now of AI that's referred to as artificial narrow intelligence. And this is where AI is simply augmenting human intelligence. Now, you're hearing a lot of buzz and a lot of maybe confusion around another term referred to as AGI, or artificial general intelligence. And we're not there yet. Some people are estimating we'll be there by the end of this decade. But this is actually where AI is equal to human intelligence. And then the final stage of AI, which we, by the way, may never even get to, is referred to as artificial superior intelligence. And this is where all your sci-fi movies have, pretty much been showing this very dystopian future. Although I have a very utopian kind of image of where this could take us. But I only mention this is because when your employees hear about AI, many of them, because of the movies that they may have seen or books they may have read, are automatically jumping to that phase of artificial superior intelligence. And we frankly are not there yet. We may never get there, and it may be decades away. So we're going to focus the conversation today on artificial narrow intelligence and just kind of let the future unfold as it may down the road. With that said, I like to go back and sort of show you how we got to where we are today. And we really, AI got its start in the 1950s, and then it's been slowly and gradually growing. In this time frame, which is pretty long, 1950 to 1998, AI was frankly, it was limited by computational power. We didn't have enough data. The algorithms were not very sophisticated. And frankly, there wasn't a lot of funding taking place at this point. I actually worked at Apple during the AI winter, and Apple put out a really kind of interesting vision of the future of AI. And they called it Apple Knowledge Navigator back then. In fact, if you go on YouTube and you type in Apple Knowledge Navigator, you'll see this grainy old video that sort of shows you what Apple's prediction of the future would be. And frankly, they're not far off. And we are actually very close to that future today. So if you have extra time and you want to share, look at that video, it might give you some interesting laughs on how the future was being envisioned way back then. And then the next phase of AI came along, and this phase of AI, frankly, was more or less classifying and tagging data, and this moved us in a movement towards deep learning. A lot of the activities and the AI leaders in this time frame were using AI to challenge humans at different games. So we had AI beating humans in chess. We had IBM's Watson beating people on the show Jeopardy. And then in 2017, DeepMind, which is now owned by Google, created a solution called AlphaGo, which later evolved to AlphaGo Zero. And if you're not familiar with the game of Go, it has been continuously played throughout history for over 2,500 years. So it's the longest continuously played game in human history. There are more moves on the board in the game of Go than there are atoms in the observable universe. So it's a highly complex game. And back in 2017, DeepMind built an AI that could literally beat the #1 Go player on the planet. But what was most interesting, and the only reason I mention this and highlight it, is it actually created moves in the game that no human had ever thought of. And so no human in 2,500 years had ever thought to make that move in the game or to take on that strategy within the game. And that's when all of these AI researchers begin to recognize that AI is actually thinking in new and different ways than humans have ever thought. And that brought us to this stage of AI that we're actually rolling through right now. And that is generative AI and large language models. GPT-1 was actually introduced back in 2018. No one had access to it except for researchers back in that stage, but it slowly began to emerge. And then in 2024, 2023, we had GPT 3.5. That's when it went public. And in 2024, we are now dealing with an explosion of large language models. And this is actually has moved the whole AI kind of research industry in one direction into this generative AI era. And so you can type in text and get reports, press releases, poems, whatever you're typing. These text prompts are actually educating the large language models or requesting information from these large language models. You can type text and get code, programming code. You can type in text and get an image. You can type in text and get a video, text to music, text to audio and translations, even text to robot instructions, and the list goes on and on. But now we are actually entering a phase that is even going beyond having to type in text. Now you can actually converse with the AI or with chatbots and actually have conversations with them and generate sort of the same results as well. And so if I were to kind of help explain this in a kind of a humoristic way, the AI had to be trained in order for it to be able to come up with these answers and these conclusions. So over those years, over that history, AI was shown, for example, hundreds, if not thousands of images of Chihuahua dogs and hundreds, if not thousands of images of blueberry muffins. And it had to be trained just, like this is a blueberry muffin and this is a Chihuahua dog. And so from a pixel perspective, it was actually training itself. Now, we as humans can easily look at these images and with maybe a second or two can distinguish between them. But an AI couldn't. But however, an AI now easily can distinguish between these images because it's been trained. And these images have been classified. So if I were to take it a step further, I can now go with a simple text prompt and type in, show me a picture of a blueberry muffin Chihuahua dog, and get an image like this. In fact, I can get hundreds of images of all different variations. I can even make the dog talk or run or do all kinds of activities. And this is where AI has come to. And this is where the graphic side of AI is moving forward. And there's really a lot of interesting developments in this front as well. So overnight, prompt engineering has become very important. Just in the last few years, how you craft a prompt very much dictates the kinds of answers and responses that you can get in AI. And we have hundreds of different large language models, at our fingertips to use. A lot of these are free, by the way. Probably the most popular one is OpenAI's GPT, which is up to GPT 4.0 right now. This is multimodal. You can actually, it recently was released, at least on my phone. I think it's slowly rolling out, but I can actually have a conversation with my AI through GPT. There are custom GPTs available that other people have gone and worked on crafted the perfect prompt, and now they have a GPT store that you can go to and use those. And then there's all kinds, it's also connected to the internet, so you can get all kinds of up-to-date information. Now, another popular one that's actually growing in popularity, even more so than GPT 4.0, is Claude 3.5 Sonnet. This is by a company named Anthropic. It's creating a very collaborative work environment using something called artifacts. And it's really great at coding, transcribing text, doing all kinds of interesting capabilities for retail, logistics, financial services. And this is just one era that, one large language model that is really growing and taking off right now. And then we have Google Gemini 1.5. This is their latest version. It has a 1,000 token context window. Now, what I mean by that is that the actual prompt itself can have 1,000 tokens in it. So 1,000 tokens, or excuse me, 1,000,000 tokens. 1,000,000 tokens is equal to like an hour-long video. It's roughly about 11 hours of audio, and it's about 700,000 words of text. So that's about around 3/4 of the Harry Potter series could be part of your prompt. And this is actually changing the way that prompts can be used, and putting a lot more emphasis on the way in which we work and interact with these large language models. And then there's the next one, which was just recently released, and that's Llama 3.1. This is by Meta. Meta is the grandparent or parent of Facebook and Instagram. But it's an open source architecture, and this is what makes it really unique and interesting. There's a few other open source large language models, but Meta's probably, the Llama 3.1 is one of the top performing ones today. And it has improved long text context understanding. It's been used mostly in research and custom applications, but being open source, there's creating new avenues for building on top of its, open source architecture and creating your own custom large language models through it. So this is just a snapshot. Again, there's dozens upon dozens of other large language models and even some other popular ones as well. But we just wanted to take time to highlight these four. And just to give you an example of how these large language models are growing, GPT-2 was roughly at the preschool level. Then you had 3, which was kind of had the intelligence of an adolescent. 3.5 is roughly a high school student. GPT-4, some people still think high school student, college or grad student level. There's some debate on that. And then 4.0 is what it was given these enhanced capabilities. One of them will soon be rolling out And that'll be vision as another capability as well. And then GPT-5 is not there yet. There's a lot of rumors around it, but it is believed that when it is launched, that it will be at an extreme pro or PhD level of intelligence. So this is where most of these, and I'm only using ChatGPT as an example here, but all of these large language models are basically increasing their intelligence along this same kind of glide path. Now, you probably, if you're using Microsoft, you probably have heard of Copilot. That's readily available now and growing. Apple Intelligence is slowly rolling out. More of this is expected to roll out next year and perhaps later this fall. But these are tools that are coming to devices near you. And you'll see more and more of these types of tools that will come actually on your device itself. And they're even building chips that can be more functional in using these AI applications as well. And this is all adding up to increased productivity. So this, when you look at the history, when you look at where we are today and you look at the landscape, this is what's enabling companies to increase their productivity by faster proposals, letters, reports, market research, data analysis. AI can review contracts, it can review budgets and highlight maybe errors or highlight opportunities. It can help with negotiation and handling objections. It can easily recap meetings. In fact, many of you, I'm guessing, have used it for that purpose. And then it can also help brainstorm new ideas. And then if you have a marketing, PR, or social media department in your organization, it really has an enormous amount of tools that can help those individuals perform in far better and faster ways. And essentially any repetitive task, and this is growing beyond repetitive task. It's able to do much more than that, actually. But if you basically have people doing repetitive tasks, the stage of AI that we're at right now can easily help them in their work. So I'm going to cover now some just general business AI use cases, and then we're going to dive into some that might be more relevant to you all. Customer service is sort of a general one that we're seeing throughout all different industries. These are AI agents or chatbots, and they can, frankly, handle a significant portion of customer inquiries. What's also unique about them is that they can speak in almost every language on the planet or any dialect. So that creates opportunities for anyone who might have international opportunities. And not only are these AI agents or chatbots speeding up response times, but they're freeing up your staff to work on more complex or higher level issues. Or if for companies that don't quite feel comfortable enough with putting these chatbots out there and have them facing their customer base, they're also being used in-house so that just the staff themselves are using them so that they can respond faster to inquiries. And all of these chatbots are actually based on your own data. So it's trained on your data, on your website, on any content that you select and choose that you want to train it. So if you have, for example, a history of dialogue from your customer service folks, of back and forth conversations with customers, you can actually use that to train these chatbots on how to best respond to a customer. And you'll start seeing this, by the way, more and more in other industry sectors. Airlines are starting to use it. I've seen it in a couple of other places with retail clients. And customers are going to start almost expecting it, but you want to make sure that it's working really well, because there are some examples of, like, McDonald's kind of turned it down for right now because they didn't think it could understand speech as well. But it really, honestly, if you're having somebody even type in text to ask their inquiry, the levels of answers that are coming back are quite sophisticated. And then there's human resources. If you happen to be in a position where you have a lot of turnover in your organization or simply need better training, the AI is a perfect fit here. It can actually personalize that training to a specific job role. It can provide a virtual assistant, much in the same way we talked about a customer service AI agent. You can actually have like an AI agent just for your staff so that they can, simply query it to get information about vacation time or safety rules or regulations. And this is enabling consistent onboarding of new hires. And then performance management. You can have the AI actually look and analyze an employee's performance data. It can identify trends. It can provide actionable insights to managers. And this is going to help create more accurate performance goals while also identifying areas for development. And then there's sales. And, basically when you're dealing with this topic, a lot of you probably already have salespeople that might already be using these AI tools to draft outreach messages. And this is where they can be actually tailored. The message itself can be tailored to a specific industry, a specific individual, and this can be based on the history of communication with that individual or the history of their of what they've purchased in the past. The same is true for creating a checklist to help earmark and identify the most qualified prospects, as well as creating custom proposal templates. Now, some of these have been around for a while, but AI is sort of taking it to a new and different level. And then we talked about marketing and PR a little bit, but this is really where your marketing team can easily target their efforts on specific audiences with specific needs. All of your website content can be rewritten by an AI, and this will help increase your SEO ranking. You don't have to go to those SEO experts anymore. And then there's images and video that you literally, by the way, every image in this presentation was created by AI. So this is royalty-free images. You can create videos for your websites, for newsletters, press releases, social media posts. You can even create commercials. And if you never thought as a business that you had the budget to create a full-scale commercial, you now can do it for very little money using these AI tools. And now I'm going to drill down a little deeper into some supply chain AI use cases. And here we have predictive maintenance. And this, again, has been around for a while, but this is growing as a result of AI. So you can have sensors installed on machinery, and the algorithms are going to identify patterns of how often it's been used, and they're going to be able to predict when that machine is likely to fail. This is huge for a lot of companies that have downtime with their machinery. Having that predictive analytics to actually predict when an equipment failure is likely to occur. And then there's quality control. The vision systems, when I talked earlier about the AI being trained to identify a Chihuahua dog versus a blueberry muffin, well, this is the same way in which you can train a computer vision system to inspect products for defects on the production line. These high resolution cameras can be trained on what the perfect, product looks like, and then the AI can detect imperfections that might easily be missed by a human inspector. And then route optimization. This actually has been used for a while by a lot of delivery companies, calculating the most efficient routes to reduce fuel consumption. But now it's being taken to another level with AI and having these algorithms truly track all the different other conditions that might be at play, such as weather or traffic patterns or other things. It can actually reconnect those routes and optimize them for the most fuel efficient deliveries. And what I want to talk about next is we actually had someone mention that they wanted to learn more about digital twins. And digital twins, by the way, is a big topic. We could do a whole presentation around it. But I just wanted to give you a sample of what a digital twin looks like in the warehouse kind of environment. And what the AI has done here is it's basically replicated a 100,000 square foot warehouse facility. And it has, you have cameras that are installed in the roof, and you'll see an image of that in a minute, that are actually looking at the patterns in which people are walking around and the patterns of the daily work process. And here you go. These are the different cameras that are analyzing it. And then you create a digital twin of that environment. And you can then begin to, again, just like the route optimization for driving, you have route optimization here within your warehouse. And if conditions change, if something unexpected happens, like a group of boxes falling out down into aisle 3, you now have the AI can adapt and reroute people around those conditions. And you can actually even query the AI and ask it, what's happening, what's changed, and it can actually send a message to you, even with a video of that situation that occurred on aisle 3. So that's just an example of how a digital twin can help optimize your delivery and your work kind of the work arrangements and processes and procedures within a warehouse environment. So this is taking the AI from decision support, which a lot of people are using now, or decision augmentation, to actually decision automation, where it's automating the decisions of how the workflow should go. And then from an other side of operations, there's demand forecasting. This is really actually where, AI shines. Looking at historical sales data, market trends, weather patterns, even social media activity. That's all wrapped together to help predict future demand. Also, it can be utilized, and a lot of people are currently utilizing it to help reduce energy consumption as well. And then on the retail side, we've got inventory management. This is helping to balance inventory levels, prevent overstocking, reducing, you want to help reduce those carry costs and improve cash flow. You also have, again, another use case for predictive analytics, where it's predicting the customer behavior. It's predicting trends, and it's helping retailers make those more informed marketing and merchandising decisions based on how the AI is predicting what will and will not sell. But with all of the positive use cases, we also have to be balance that out with some of the AI downfalls and dangers. And these dangers, unfortunately, can be quite catastrophic for almost any business. But I'm going to kind of gradually ease ourselves into the more evil dangers. And we'll start out with just the hallucinations. Now, if you are not familiar with the term hallucinations, I'll go ahead and basically describe it to you here. This is when the AI is actually just making stuff up. It often happens when somebody writes a bad prompt. So if you write a prompt, and just hypothetically, if you said, show me the top 10 ski areas in West Virginia, well, if it can only find, the top 5, it will make up the other 5 because you asked for 10. And it does this in a very convincing manner. In fact, most people can't tell the difference that whether it was real or made up. So you have to, the way you can mitigate this is to create a better prompt. Don't ask it to create, a list of something, because it's going to try to fill out that request, but also ask it to check facts. So you can also ask the large language model to put a link to the references, so it can cite where it received that information. And by the way, check on those citations or those links, because sometimes those links are not real either. So you want to make sure that it's, that you're mitigating the opportunity for the AI to make something up. Now, this used to happen a lot. When I first, started using these large language models years ago, I saw this very often, but using it over the years, it's really become I'm hoping it's becoming a very short-lived problem, because I've seen these large language models grow and evolve in ways that these hallucinations are happening less and less. And some of these large language models are now actually automatically citing the references as part of the response, without you even requesting it. So that's a nice way of being able to check to make sure these facts are correct. Another thing that's happening with the results you get from some of these large language models, and even more so from image creation tools, is biased data or biased responses. And this has happened primarily because AI was trained on a lot of biased data. It's gotten a lot better. Again, this is something that, as these large language models evolve, the bias within them is actually being better controlled. But if you're working on a solution that's using your data, and if your data has bias in it, or the way in which you're organizing your data is setting itself up to create a biased response, you want to make sure that you're aware of that. And so that's that's an area of AI that needs a lot more oversight. Again, a well-written prompt can help to mitigate this, but in the other way to really help to identify it is to work with diverse teams of people that are working on these AI solutions, and they can help spot and reduce that bias along the way. But all of this is happening, and the reason we can't figure out when it hallucinates or when bias might have entered the equation is because the AI is actually too complex for humans to understand the way in which it comes up with the answer. And this is referred to as black box thinking. Now, it is not a physical black box. This is just a term that, the AI, industry refers to as when AI is thinking far beyond what a human can understand. And so we can't peel back the onion to really understand and see how it came up with the answers that it came up with. Most of the time, the answers are right and the answers are really sophisticated, but we don't know how it got there. And so, the researchers are all working towards this. In fact, they're looking to actually use AI to help humans better understand how these answers are generated, but we're not quite there yet. So when you hear a black box thinking, this is basically referring to the fact that we just simply do not know how the algorithm came up with that answer. And now this brings us to deep fakes. I have frankly never been in the Olympics. I have never won a medal of any kind. But within a few minutes, and this was literally free, and within a few minutes, I was actually able to take the image of an Olympian and instead insert my picture in it, and I can also make it talk.
I'm so excited to be an Olympic gold medalist. I really want to thank all of my supporters.
Now, that kind of looked a little, fuzzy. You might have said, yeah, I could tell that was an AI. That, again, I did that for free and within a few minutes. If I had paid a little money and spent a little extra time, maybe 30 minutes or more, I could have created something that literally would have looked flawless and you would never have been able to tell the difference. And this is what's happening out there is more and more these tools are enabling people with even limited AI knowledge to create fakes, and it's getting easier and easier to do. And what that means for you is that there are people out there, perhaps competitors, that could create all kinds of different, situations that could, look badly upon your company or talk, create scenarios about products that don't work when actually, in fact, they do work. So this is something to be, aware of. It's also something that you need to be aware of from just a scam perspective, because somebody can easily take the voice or even just a few seconds of voice of your boss or your CEO and actually have either an email or a phone call come from that person that sounds exactly like your boss, and it's not your boss. And it's going to be telling you to do something like transfer funds or change your routing number or things like that that just seem a little suspicious. So it's extremely important that you increase the critical thinking skills of your staff, because once a fake is seen, it's really hard for people not to believe it was fake, even if they're told it was fake. So this is, unfortunately, this is happening in all other areas of society, social media, politicians, etc. Some of the social media sites are actually starting to tag things that were created with AI so that people can better identify them up front. But you still need to be aware of it. And you really need to have that kind of, critical thinking hat on at all times, because this can be faked far better than what I just showed you. And that brings us to the dark web. And this is where people, unfortunately, bad actors are kind of upping their game, just like all the businesses are upping their game with AI. So the bad guys are too. So their spear phishing emails are getting more sophisticated. They're creating undetectable malware. They're generating phishing pages that look identical to the real thing. And they're really, creating scenarios that are targeting the weakest link. And the easiest way to get into an organization is through an employee. And that's where you're seeing a growing number of these scam attempts taking place. So it's critical to train your staff, and not just training your staff about the concerns of today, but you've got to train them about the issues that they're going to start seeing in the year ahead and even beyond. I would highly recommend that if anybody on your team is asked to change something with regards to a financial transaction, that they need to pick up the phone and actually call that person to make sure that the phone call that they just received from that person was truly from that person, because it can be faked. An email can be faked to look like it came from that vendor. And I'm also recommending, just as a public service announcement, because this is happening with families as well, that you go out leave all your electronic devices in the house, walk as far away from your Alexas or your Googles or whatever, leave your phones in the house, go out to your backyard and come up with a secret, unique word or phrase for your family. So that when that phone call comes, and it probably will come, there are already people, by the way, that are calling you that when you don't hear a voice on the other line, they're just trying to capture as much of your voice as possible. So if you're saying, hello, hello, is anybody there? The longer you talk to that voice that is nothing on the other end of the line, the longer they're capturing your voice. And they're going to use that voice to then call a family member of yours and say that you're in trouble, and that you need money, and wire it to this, person. So these are the kinds of scams that are just going to get more and more sophisticated. And if you have that unique phrase or passcode, or if you just simply pick up the phone and call that family member to confirm that they were in fact in trouble, you want to make sure that you're mitigating these problems as much as possible. And then finally, the last thing, and there, by the way, this isn't the last thing. There are many more things that are considered kind of concerns as AI continues to grow. But one of the things that can really hurt an organization is bad data. If you're looking at the data that you've been compiling or trying to make predictions off of it, if it's inaccurate data, or if it's not, properly organized, you're going to have an unreliable and unusable data set that is going to feed you misinformation. So it's critically important that you have your data game kind of within your company as tightly buttoned up as possible. You want to make sure that all your employees are trained on good data hygiene, habits, and procedures. And to your average employee, they may not understand this. They may go, why do I have to do this every time? And you want to make sure that they understand the big picture, that this is the information that they're gathering is actually has potential use cases in the future, if not tomorrow. And you want to make sure that that's not happening to you. Also, make sure that your employees are not uploading sensitive information today. Because ChatGPT has now been around for a while, I'm hearing more and more stories of employees that are going, oh yeah, I wanted to learn how to use, these tools. So I uploaded all of my company's financial data just to check it out. Well, that's sensitive data. And if you're depending upon your industry, sector or the kinds of data that you're working with, it can even be more sensitive than that. And if your employees are uploading this information into these random large language models, those large language models are capturing that data. Now, there are scenarios where solutions can be built for companies where that doesn't happen. And that's something that requires you kind of bringing the experts in to really help you create a scenario where your information and your data is protected. So the best defense is a strong offense. And what I would recommend is first, if you haven't already done this, start out by conducting an AI assessment. You want to really have people dive deep and look at your sensitive information, how your data is handled, is your cybersecurity training up to date, and then assess the data. What's the quality of it? Where is it stored? How is it currently being used? Also looking at your vendors, the software. There's a lot of vendors, by the way, that are adding AI solutions into their products. You want to better understand how that AI is being integrated or how it can be integrated with any existing solutions that you might be developing. And also, whether or not your data is protected in those environments. Also, an opportunity analysis. There are literally hundreds of different use cases. I only had time to cite a few today, but the use case list is much longer. And by sitting down and meeting with individuals, departments, and also, leadership within a company, you can actually build AI use cases that are going to align with your goals and help boost your productivity and find the solutions that best fit your company. Every company's unique. Every company's different. Every company's data is a different level of health. And so by wrapping all of those different elements together, we can actually create a matrix that allows you to look at the best solutions for your company. And that's visualizing those potential AI use cases, how they can help you today and how they can grow with you over the long haul. And so as you're thinking of these kind of new AI use cases, you also have to be thinking about how you manage these risks alongside these amazing innovations that are going to come forward. You want to make sure that you've got an AI governance model in place. And depending again upon, what industry sector you may be in, some of this is going to be dictated to companies over time. So it's good to get ahead of this. Come up with some clear principles for fairness, transparency, and accountability. And that's going to be sort of your ethical, kind of, how you're ethically looking at AI as an organization. We also recommend creating an oversight committee, and this is establishing a multidisciplinary team to oversee any AI projects. And this is allowing those members of that team to get even educated along the way as to how AI should be used. Bias and fairness, we talked a little bit about that earlier. We want to try to, conduct some audits, detect and mitigate those biases, and ensure that, your organization is actually using data in a way that benefits versus hurts you. Transparency, you want to make sure that you're always clearly communicating these initiatives with your staff. Looking at the benefits and the limitations as well. And then this is not, unfortunately, AI is not a one and done activity. This is not like, oh, I'm going to just do an AI assessment and I'm going to create this governance model and that'll be the end of it and I can check that box. Unfortunately, AI, as I mentioned at the beginning, is evolving at an exponential pace. So all of these models, governance models, all of these assessments actually need to be kind of reviewed and evolve over time because the AI will simply be changing. And so that brings us to like creating the final piece of the puzzle, which is creating an AI roadmap. You want this to have a top-down approach. You want to make sure that right now that you don't have individual employees within your organization kind of creating their own AI tools or their own AI support systems. You want to make sure that everything is linked and tied together and has that executive support along the way. You obviously want to make sure it aligns with your business goals. You want to from that matrix of these assessment, you want to make sure that you're, looking at the right use cases, that they actually are going to provide value and give you that clear path of where AI can take you down the road. You want to make sure that, again, we keep talking about data quality. Over time, you also want to build a skilled team. Now, this is hard to find these days because most organizations don't have cyber experts, data experts, and AI experts, or even experts in features like Copilot. So you want to find organizations that have expertise in those 4 areas because AI is impacting every one of those buckets. And then when you find the right solutions, you want to pilot them first. You don't want to just launch them out there because you got to make sure that everything's working properly. So pilot it within your organization, maybe pilot it with a small group of clients. And then as it becomes successful, then you can go ahead and scale it. But try to also avoid getting into what's called pilot purgatory, where you got a lot of pilot projects just sitting around and nothing ever reaches the light of day. So go ahead and you're going to have to take a few risks along the way to get these projects really out there and working with your organization. And then finally, AI is new for all of us, and it's growing at such a speed that we really need to be continual learners in this space. So experiment with it, learn from it. Go ahead. There's many free versions, free tokens, free trials. Go out there and start playing with these tools and see what is fitting your needs. There are literally hundreds, if not thousands of AI tools already out there. And the one may be better than another, one may be a better fit than other. So it takes time to really go through them and actually look at what's going to be the best fit. Also experiment with with your prompts. Try writing different prompts in different ways. Actually try having the AI write the prompt for you. That's another opportunity. And you want to make sure that it's mitigating bias and hallucinations along the way. And slowly over time, you will grow your own expertise and increase your own productivity through learning these tools. But we also want organizations to understand that the best way for your organization to grow is to share what you learn. Because if we just, kind of silo ourselves off and learn our own little AI tricks along the way, we're not benefiting the organization as a whole. So if you learn something and if something new inspires you, feel free to share it within your organization and be teaching other people along the way. And with that said, I will go ahead and open it up to questions and answers.
Sorry about that. To be a moment to get myself off mute.
All right.
All right. So the first question we have for you is it okay to adapt an AI policy that we found online for our organization? Are there any dangers we should be aware of?
Yes, I would not just cut and paste an AI policy. You really want that policy to be personalized to your organization, and not everybody's. I mean, the bad thing about this is that there are unfortunately people doing it already, and it's not reflecting, the ideals of your organization, the mission of your organization, and the goals of your organization or company. So you really want it to reflect all of those nuances. And the best way to do that is to work with somebody who's an expert in that space and can craft a policy that works just for your organization.
Perfect. And I think a perfect way to follow up on that is there a question for there's so many new AI tools coming out. What is the best way to manage their staff's excitement over the new latest trendy tool?
Yes, and there are trendy tools taking off in all different directions. First, one of the first things I would do is make sure that your staff fully understands not to, when they're experimenting or playing around with these new tools, that they don't use your company's sensitive data in the process. I mentioned that earlier in the talk, but it's worth repeating. In fact, that would be like almost step one if I were to go back to to a company and say, this is your number one thing we need to get across right now. That needs to be part of the policy, but it also needs to be, fully understood. In fact, you might want to create some synthetic data or artificial data that people can work with, and experiment with these tools. And then there are a lot of platforms, by the way, that are kind of acting as sort of like reservoirs for all the new tools that are coming up. And so you might want to look into some of those and allow it to, be able to better search on the tools that are coming up. And then when you look at a new tool, look at the company behind the tool as well. Is that company robust? Is that company going to be around in 6 months or a year? Some of these new AI tools are actually being created by startups that have little to no funding or have, really little to no oversight. And you may not understand that, may just think the tool's really cool, but you really need to look into the company itself, the founders. How long have they been around? How was this tool created? What does it say in the fine print? So that you best understand the best tools that are going to best fit your needs and your company's goals.
Wonderful, Anne. Last question it looks like we have for you is how can we measure the success of our AI initiatives and what KPI should we track?
Yeah, so actually you can use AI to help you find the best KPIs. You can use AI to help even track it. So that's another use case for AI as well.
Oh, actually one more for us. Once we have an AI governance framework in place, how often should we review and update it?
I would review it at least monthly. And I know that sounds like, a short amount of time, but you're going to have things changing within large language models. For example, if somebody had crafted a policy even 2 months ago, it might not have included all the multimodal ways in which you can use AI. So there's visual, very soon you're going to have visual use of AI. So you can take your phone and point it towards a product and say, what's defective with this product? Or you can point it towards an environment and say, what environment am I in right now? Or how can I fix this? So you want to make sure that you're including all these multimodal ways in which AI can be used, and that you wouldn't have known that just a few months ago. And we don't know what's going to happen in just a month or two from now. Those things will be changing as well. So I would suggest monthly.
Wonderful. All right, and I think that it looks like that is all the questions we have for our Q&A today. So thank you so much, Anne, for that insightful presentation, and thank you everyone for attending today's webinar. We hope everyone found the session very valuable and sparked some new ideas on how AI can be integrated into your organization. Before we wrap up, I'd like to mention a special opportunity available exclusively to our webinar attendees. To support you in advancing your AI journey, we're extending an exclusive offering for our AI roadmap. This offering includes an assessment that will help you evaluate your organization's current capabilities and identify key areas where AI can make the most significant impacts. One of our relationship development executives will be reaching out to you soon to share some more details about that offer and how you could potentially take advantage of it. So thank you all for joining us today, and we look forward to connecting with you soon. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you.